How we doing, folks? Welcome to the channel. Got a great review for you today. Got the new Roto Grip HP4 offering. This one's called the RST Hyperdrive. It's got the same cover that was on the Gem and the Roto Star core. Should be two pretty good, strong components. Good combination. Let's see how much it hooks. We'll get it out on the lane. Amar is starting us off on a really fresh lane. Our lane pattern has recently been extended to 44 feet, so it's a very long, very high volume house pattern here. Amar's kind of trying to play the length of the pattern, but he really has to be slow to get this ball to check up the right way. The transition window for this ball is pretty long, so trying to get it to create that space in a short window down lane doesn't work out too well. So he's got to get the ball to touch the friction, but not overreact with how strong it is. I was a little surprised to see this lane tighten up as Amar bowled. Even with a cover as strong as the micro tracks with the nanoparticles in it, and how strong the core of this ball is and how much it flares, it really stretched the pattern quickly. As you can see, it got a little harder to get that 7-pin out after a few shots. I do want to note that this really isn't the ideal condition to match this particular layout on this ball up with. Amar caught so much oil, and this ball was really laid out to cut down on the amount of hook overall. So trying to match it up with that short window down lane is probably not the best space to throw it. For comparison, Amar went to his attention star, and you notice right away how much harder it comes off the spot down lane. This is more the kind of ball that he likes to throw on these patterns, and it will create that shape in that short window down lane. Not knowing what condition the lane that I was bowling on was, I kind of tried to throw the ball around the track just to see what it would do. I definitely saw it lazy down lane with the length of this pattern, but I found that for me, I had a lot better reaction the further right I got the ball. So I could loft it a little bit over the front and really push it to the right and let it shape, and then it looked good. This is also a much stronger drilling for me than it is for Amar. And I definitely had some traffic before I got to this lane, because you can see how much more bounce there is up the outside. This shot's a very good illustration of the difference between me hitting about 4 down lane and me hitting about 7 down lane. I was really surprised at how much I noticed the difference between the S2 and the RST Hyperdrive. The S2 is so much quicker off the spot that even though it's cleaner, it covers so many more boards that it hooked a lot more for me. Physics Blackout, much more similar layout and I think overall ball reaction. Still noticeably stronger, but it hooks closer to the same part of the lane and in similar shape. Just for fun, I threw one from really deep and slowed it down just to see how many boards I could cover with it. It responded better than I expected. Okay, now that we've gotten a chance to see the ball go down the lane, let's talk a little bit about the balls that I threw and the numbers for each of them, kind of compare. So we're looking at the brand new RST Hyperdrive. You just saw us throw in this one. It's got a really high diff. It's a .055, which is a very strong. The Roto Star core that was in the other RST balls. Differential is .055. The PSA is .017. And I believe the RG is 2.52, so it's a little bit higher RG compared to most of the other big HP4 line balls, which ideally should give you a little bit more length and a little bit more motion in the back end. Microtrax cover, same cover that was on the Gem, so very strong cover. Got the nanoparticle in it, it sees the mid lane, great for heavy oil. And Roto Star core, very strong, so strong cover, strong core combination, usually going to give you very strong motion. For comparison, I used the last HP4 release that was the Attention Star S2. This one has a RG of 2.48. The diff is a .049, so a little lower, and a .017 again on the PSA, so still pretty strong. Cover is E-Trax Plus Hybrid, which is definitely a much cleaner cover than the Microtrax. And Momentous AV is the core. Of course, all of these featuring the AI edition for the amplified inertia, but this one is definitely, for me, a cleaner ball. For a high performance ball, it's a cleaner ball that gives you more motion in the back end. And then the other one I used was Storm's big ball right now. This one is the new Blackout, the Physics Blackout. RG's 2.47. It's got an 0.55 differential as well, and .018 on the PSA, so just a touch higher. Atomic AI core, and NEX Pearl, which has been on a lot of great balls. Sanded Pearl, though, definitely very diggy in the mid lane for a Pearl ball, but that NEX, it's the same thing. You get that particle in there and it wants to grab. So for me, this has been the strong ball in my bag that I prefer. It's a little bit like the physics core for me has always been really good about retaining energy down lane, even with the strong core on it. So balls like the Ion Max are so early with my ball speed that it's hard to get them to retain energy. So this one has kind of worked out to be the best for me. Real strong in the mid lane, but it still will continue and go through. So what I saw throwing the RST Hyperdrive, when I threw the original RST, I really loved the shape of it, but it didn't go through the pins very well for me. For whatever reason, I felt like I left a lot of 10 pins. I was a little worried about this one having the same problem or worse with the stronger cover on it. I will say I have to focus on getting this one over the front of the lane a little bit. That's partly due to my ball speed, partly due to, as I've explained on basically every video, the front panels here have a lot of friction built into them. Once I get it over the front, it reads beautifully. I do have to get it into the friction a little earlier to create that shape because it is a little lazy when I try to hold it in the track area. Our house pattern's 44 feet, it's a lot of volume, so it is a 12-to-1 ratio though, so there's plenty of dry to the right, and I just have to use it to get this ball to shape the right way. If I was in a place with a little bit quicker back ends, I would probably like this a little more on the heavy volume. But here there's definitely some push down lane, early hook, so I got to kind of try to work around that, and that's what I found works the best for me. And when I do, it looks beautiful. As you saw in the video, I struck a ton with this ball, getting it over the front. But you could definitely see the difference in reaction of when I got it out, 5 or further right, and when I didn't. The down lane reaction was completely different, so made a big difference. By comparison, the S2 was cleaner, harder off the spot though, so it did hook more just because it retained so much more energy. And I had to not only get in and get the angle right, but I couldn't just throw it over the front of the lane the way I was doing with this one because it was so whippy when it saw the friction. I had to pick the speed up but get it into the lane sooner to kind of even it out. And then the physics blackout was similar motion, I would say, to this one, but a little stronger overall. It still had that smooth read, and I felt like I had a little bit more forgiveness if I didn't get this one right compared to the RST Hyperdrive. I feel like this ball is really going to fit best for people that are a little bit more speed dominant, or if you end up finding yourself in a place where there's just too much oil and you need more ball. This thing's very good at digging in the mid lane, but it's definitely more continuous than like the Ion Max, so it makes a pretty good in-between for the Ion Max and then the balls like this that are a little bit more continuous, hard motion off the back end. So obviously with the way I throw it, I prefer that a little bit. This layout for Amar was a pretty weak layout, so he took him a little bit to get it dialed in, but he really just had to kind of play the length of the pattern and not try to play as much shape, and really roll it into the lane to get it to pick up. He used his original attention star, which is one of the strongest balls down lane that anybody's ever made. So definitely it looked much better in the short window that he was trying to play. And with the combination of this ball already being so rolly and the layout being weak, he just kind of had to make it happen with his hand. But he did that pretty well. He's good at that. So he had to fight keeping the speed down a little bit, but once he did that, then everything looked really good. Okay, so RST Hyperdrive is available now. You can get them at Revolution's Pro Shop and pro shops all over the country. I would say go out and get one of these if you need the big ball in your bag. And Squad RG, keep throwing those strikes.